The Roman and Chinese empires are two very important civilizations. Very different in their ways of functioning, they have succeeded in influencing today's world in their own way, according to their various discoveries and inventions. One of the areas in which the Romans excelled during their time is architecture. These people had incredible techniques which are still complicated to reproduce today. The Romans were responsible for the water irrigation system. For example, they built aqueducts during their time. Some of them are still standing, including the aqueduct of Gar, in one of the most impressive buildings of that period. The creation of the water irrigation system also enabled the Romans to create the first public toilets. The Romans played a major part in the expansion of the road field. Indeed, they built 80,000 kilometers of road and are at the origin of the highways we use today. In addition to that, they create the traffic signs that nowadays indicate the distances between cities as well as the indication along the road. Another innovation we owe them is the law. The very first law book was called the Law of the 12th Table. The Roman Empire was a very large empire. In this surface covered in blue on the map, this delimitates the Roman territory. This large territory has contributed to their decline. Indeed, it's obvious that ruling over a large territory is tempting, but unfortunately the larger the territory is, the more complicated it is to manage it. Thus, when we talk about large territory, we talk about large and numerous borders. The empire was invaded by several people, and in particular by the barbarians who ravaged the empire. Being too big, there was a lot of disagreements within the empire. This problem of leadership and opinion have weakened the empire. The authoritarianism of some leaders directly caused the loss and decline of the Roman Empire. The last point that contributed to the decline was corruption. There was a large problem with taxes, duties, and money in general in this empire. As I said earlier, architecture and especially irrigation systems are major inventions that are now the greatest legacies of that time. We owe these people these inventions that we used every day. It was the Romans who made the first distinction between private law and public law. We learned that public law involves the state with issues of corruption and taxation, while private law deals with matters between persons, contracts and rules, known as disputes. It is also the Romans who are at the origin of trials before an hearing or a jury. These practices are used in today's system. Another fundamentally Roman idea is to say that the law is first and foremost to protect citizens from each other, but also from the state. It was at that time that the idea of innocence until proven otherwise was promoted. It is to the Romans that we owe the images of the emperors on the coins. Present all over the world, this invention has been literally used worldwide. The Chinese civilization is one of the oldest in the world. It has played a major part in the evolution of today's world, and we owe this society many inventions and techniques. The major invention of Chinese civilization remains the invention of paper. Paper was one of the most important inventions of the world. At first sight, the invention of paper does not seem so important, but when we look at the question, we realize that any progress, whether scientific or artistic, deserves a lasting support on which to base. It was the paper that offered this opportunity to put discoveries on paper. Paper has thus allowed the transmission of inventions through times by giving the possibility of leaving a true trace of an era. Another revolutionary invention of the civilization was gunpowder. The little anecdote is that this was discovered by mistake. Indeed, at this time the Chinese were trying to put in place an elixir of eternal life that turned out to be gunpowder. According to experts, at first, its first use dates back to the Mongol invasion of China in 1200 before Christ. Another invention that was used for war was the crossbow. It revolutioned the war, and especially those in the Middle Age, when this weapon was widely used. Like the Roman, the Han Empire was too extensive. This large territory, therefore, directly contributed to the decline of this empire. which had difficulty in self-directing. Rebel Taoists began to rebel against the current government and caused panic throughout the country until it broke up. The Chinese Empire has had a great influence in modern society. One of the major influences remains Chinese food. Very much appreciated all over the globe, it is served in many restaurants around the world. China has a very important expansionist policy that inspires more than one country. Always in search of expansion, it is now trying to find its former territory. Many countries are trying to do the same. The Chinese nation is one of the few that has so many small Chinese territories across Western countries. Whether in Paris, New York, Singapore or Berlin, they are always Chinatowns, and this particularity remains specific to China.